Very much, and thank you, Mr. Garamendi. You get Chivalry Award of the Day. Thank you. Well, thank you, Chairman Graves and Ranking Member DeFazio, for holding today's important hearing on the implementation of the Water Resources Reform Development Act of 2014 and WRDA 2016. And I want to thank our witnesses here today, Mr. Lamont, Lieutenant General Semonite, and Major Jackson, Major General Jackson. And actually, Lieutenant General Semonite, as a member of the Veterans Committee, I really want to thank you for the Corps' commitment to hiring veterans and for our wounded warriors. I understand there are 1,300 that you may have deployed through the Corps and elsewhere, and that's a really important commitment. So I want you specifically to thank you for that. As we discuss WRDA 2014 and 16, I want to focus on programs in my district, in the 5th Congressional District of Connecticut. There are 13 flood management projects, flood risk management projects in my district, including dams, reservoirs, and local protection projects. All 13 of these create local jobs, prevent millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in flood damage, and have spurred recreational tourism that is very important to the state. I'll give you an example. Hop Brook Lake Dam on Hop Brook Lake holds back 2.2 billion gallons of water, and the estimates are that it would be $108 million of flooding damage if that were to go. The recreation attracts 200,000 visitors a year, 2 million of economic activity, and that's just one of the 13 projects in my district, where water is everywhere in Northwest Connecticut, and we really need to manage it. Now, many of these projects date back to the 50s and 60s, and we were discussing ahead of the hearing how that was sort of the heyday of the Corps. That's when my grandfather worked on Corps projects in the Midwest. But given the age of those projects, quite a number of them would be appropriate for temporary or permanent alteration requiring a Section 408 review. Now, looking at that budget, we're not at the end of the fiscal year. We've got 2.5 months left to go. And there's 95% of those funds have been expended already. Is there any funding available to do 408 review? So I'm going to lay a couple questions out. That will delay projects, right? If they don't go to 408 review, then you can't move forward. And if we're not going to have enough funding, what would you recommend that we put in those budgets for 2018? We're putting together budgets right now, and we should have appropriate funding. And the last question, because I'm going to just put them all out there and then give you folks time to respond, is continuing authorities projects. The CAP programs are very important in my district. A lot of the communities have used them, but again, we keep running through the money. Can someone tell me how many projects, what percentage of the projects that might be eligible actually receive funding? And again, what if we wanted to fund all of them, about what will we be looking at? So with that, I await your answers. Thank you.
So, ma'am, great questions. And let me hit a couple of these, and I'll let General Jackson hit the cap one. 408s are very critical. We talked about delegate them. Chairman Graves and I have talked about that. We need to do more in 408s, but we can get more into detail as to who approves them and what level that's at. There is an issue with funding. In 16, we had $4 million. In 17, we only had $3 million to do 408s. We were able to reprogram an extra $500,000 for 3.5. Even this morning, Mr. Lamont and I asked our staff, can we make it to the 1st of October? They assured me that on those that are critical, we're going to find ways of doing that. Doesn't mean we have all the money we need to have, but we're stretching that money as much as we can to the 1st of October. Now, next in 18, we have 8.5. So we'll be okay once we get to the 1st of October. I'm not going to tell you it's perfect, but we don't think that any critical projects will be held up because of 408s. And if any of you have those, then we'll certainly come back and let you know what we can do to fix it. The other thing before I go to General Jackson, I do just want to say that you talked about veterans. The Corps not only works, obviously, Civil Works, but we are very, very committed, and we've been asked by the Veterans Administration to be able to do 14 of their big hospital upgrades. We're doing about $8.5 billion in VA hospitals all around the United States. We couldn't be happier to work for a better organization to take care of our veterans out there. We're excited to do that. Ed, can you talk CAP real quick?
Congresswoman, I appreciate the question on the Continuing Authorities Program. I think your question was, what are the number of eligible projects that actually received funding? And so if—
what percentage?
Yes, and so if that's okay, I'm going to get that information and lay that out for you in greater detail so you know specifically which ones those are rather than just a number. So I'll follow back up with you and your staff at a later date to give you that information.
Thank you. And again, I know we've got, new representation in our district up in Boston. Look forward to having him in to see our wonderful, beautiful Northwest Connecticut and the projects there. Mr. Lamont?
Congresswoman, I just want to echo what General Semonite said about the 408 program. We hear loud and clear from all members and constituents a concern about the delays. We are making concerted efforts to make sure this program is funded, to do our due diligence and to the American taxpayer and obviously to the communities that want to explore this opportunity. So we're doing everything we can in conjunction with headquarters here to make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Esty. I want to perhaps give you a different perspective.